guys, welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Sam Basher here with one of my patented, not MCU Rewatch breakdowns. Hooray! I'm very excited today because we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite action films, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Before we get started, quickie spoiler warning for the Cap films, the MCU, the Cap comics, etc. Let's begin, kicking it off with comic book Easter eggs. Opening on a beautiful sunrise, we meet Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon. He first appeared in Captain America number 117 in September 1969. Now, he originally was a villain, then he was turned into a hero, and his winged harness that you see in the comics originally was created and given to him by Black Panther, which is pretty cool. Also, usually he has the ability to telepathically communicate with birds in the comics. Actually, fun fact, Red Skull in the comics uses the cosmic cube to give Sam Wilson the ability to talk to birds. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh in the middle of that, it's just ridiculous. Then moving forward to our first mission, they're headed to the Lumerian Star. Now, this is actually a very deep cut because not many Marvel fans even know about Lumeria. It's actually an underwater, civilization on Earth, similar to Atlantis. Next, we meet one of my favorite characters from the MCU and comics, Crossbones, aka Brock Rumlow, one of the coolest names ever. His first appearance was in Captain America number 360 in October of 1989. Now, originally he was a soldier and mercenary. He'd get hired out by Red Skull, Baron Zemo, whatever bad guy, he'd work for him. Then moving forward to our very first villain of the film, George Batroc, who in the comics is actually, his name is usually just Batroc the Leaper, who appeared in Tales of Suspense number 75 in March of 1966. Also, he's played by St. Pierre, who's a real-life MMA fighter. I would not want to be kicked by him. That would not be fun. Moving forward, you see Cap jump right out of a plane without a parachute, which is from the opening scene from the Ultimates comics, which is a reimagining of the Avengers in a new universe. It's one of the coolest scenes from that comic. It's one of the coolest scenes in the MCU. Also, just want to point out that Cap's new costume is actually a nod to the Secret Avengers costume. I'm actually a really big fan of it. I like just the blue and the white. I think it's very cool. But moving forward, you hear Black Widow mention the nurse that lives across the hall.
What about the nurse that lives across the hall from you? She seems kind of nice.
Already hinting to Sharon Carter, but we'll come back to her in just a second. Next, we see the Triskelion, the headquarters for S.H.I.E.L.D. in this universe and in the Ultimate Universe comics, which is pretty cool. That's where it was created. Eventually moved over to the main comics universe. I'm a big fan of the name and the whole setup. I think it's very cool. Then we see Nick Fury for the first time in this film, and he mentions that the last time he trusted someone, he lost an eye. Now, in the comics, he loses his one eye because of shrapnel from a bomb. It hits him right in the peeper. But in the movies, it's a mystery. It might just always be a mystery. It might be just one thread too many for those MCU writers. Moving forward again, we get a nod to the repulsor technology from Iron Man. They even say that Stark helped put the repulsor engines in these new helicarriers, which is a fun fact because originally in the comics, Tony Stark created the helicarrier. He designed them for S.H.I.E.L.D. And then moving forward to Robert Redford's character, Secretary Alexander Pierce is actually from the comics, but he's totally different. He actually appears in Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. number 3 in August of 1988, and he's mainly just an expert spy. Next, we get an extremely awesome scene with Nick Fury taking on a bunch of HYDRA agents in the middle of Washington, D.C. You hear him try to tell his AI in his car to take a vertical takeoff, which is a fun nod to two different things. In the comics, where Nick Fury actually has a flying car that he uses all the time, and most S.H.I.E.L.D. agents actually use them in the comics, but also in the first Captain America movie, we see Howard Stark showing off some new propulsion car tech that makes it hover just a little bit, which actually leads us to the debut of the Winter Soldier. Now, Winter Soldier specifically appeared in Captain America number 1 in January 2005. Now, Bucky appeared all the way back in the 40s, but we've talked about him in the first Captain America movie breakdown. You should go check that out for more on Bucky. But for the Winter Soldier, we find out that when he and Cap were sitting on a drone back in the 40s and it ends up exploding, and that same explosion throws Cap into the Arctic where he freezes and he eventually wakes up in the present day. Same thing, Bucky gets thrown into the water as well, but he loses an arm, but ends up being scooped up by Soviet scientists. Then he gets experimented on, gets a new metal arm, and he basically becomes the Soviet version of Captain America. But then we get the official reveal of his neighbor being Agent 13, aka Sharon Carter, who first appeared in Tales of Suspense number 75 in March of 1966. Then, sad face, Nick Fury dies, question mark, just a little bit. Now, has Nick Fury died in the comics? Probably in some way, and has come back back in a different way. Right now, he's living on the moon. He's chained to it. What a wonderful world comics are. Moving on, I just wanted to mention when Black Widow and Captain America are having this intimate moment where they're getting angry and breathing in on each other's faces. It kind of made me think of like, what if they dated? Oh, don't worry, they definitely dated many times in comics. Actually, Black Widow has dated many people who are in this movie. Just wanted to mention really quick that this elevator scene where they fight, here's a clip. Ooh, it's just awesome. Moving on. Then we get Cap jumping out of the elevator down to the floor below. He falls quite a ways, and it kind of seems like a nod to the Civil War comic where he ends up actually jumping out of a helicarrier. Then another awesome scene, taking down the Quinjet. Oh my God, that was so cool. Then moving forward to the army base where we run into Armin Zola. We talked about Armin Zola and all of his Easter eggs in the first Captain America video. Go check that out. But I think this is the coolest way to adapt his android computer mind thing to the real world. Then moving forward to the Sitwell interrogation, you hear him mention the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Stephen Strange. Now at the time, it has been confirmed that he was not the Sorcerer Supreme yet, but we did hear that the Zola algorithm was going to look for potential threats in the future, and Kevin Feige has come forward to say that because of that, eventually Stephen Strange would have become a threat because he is rich and he's powerful and he's always mingling with prominent people. Eventually, he could know too much. And then we get Bucky versus Cap, and there are three little specific scenes right here that are directly pulled from the comics. First one, Bucky punching the shield. Boom, copy paste right there. Also, Bucky holding the shield. This is actually a nod to when Bucky became Captain America, nicknamed Bucky Cap. And finally, who the hell is Bucky? That line is directly pulled from the comics. It's a great line. Then moving forward to when we find out that, oh, hooray, Nick Fury's not dead. He's in one of his secret bunkers. That is a classic story beat in all of Marvel's comics. Nick Fury has secret bases all over the planet. Also want to mention during this memory wipe scene for Bucky, if you notice this man with the unbuttoned collared white shirt, that is actually the creator of The Winter Soldier. That's Mr. Ed Brubaker. Then we get Crossbones v. Falcon. What a great match. And you even get a fun nod to Crossbones, the name, in his costume with those straps on his chest. Also, Falcon and Cap teaming up to take down HYDRA. They did that for decades in the comics. It was so cool to see them choose to work together in this movie. Then we get our first post-credit scene with Baron von Strucker, who first appeared in Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos #5 in January 1964. He's the leader of HYDRA, usually has twin children, a boy and a girl, who when they put their hands together become ultra powerful. But we actually get a different set of twins. That's right, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Now Quicksilver made his first appearance in X-Men #4 in March of 1964, and shocker, so did Scarlet Witch because they're twins. But I'll talk about them more when we get to Age of Ultron. Speaking of Age of Ultron, let's talk about some MCU Easter eggs, yes please. Right up top, we get Marvel's Intro 2.0. I'm a big fan of this one. Also, this is so cool. I love this attention to detail in these Marvel movies. Remember Steve's list of everything that he needs to catch up on? Well, in every country that this was released, for the most part, that list was different. For the US one, we saw I Love Lucy, we saw the moon landing, Berlin Wall, Up, Down, Cold War, Steve Jobs. But for the UK, there was the Sherlock TV show, the Beatles, the World Cup final in 1966. In Australia, there was AC/DC, Space Travel, Steve Irwin, and Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. Then moving forward to the Smithsonian, you actually see Joss Whedon in this scene in the very far background. You see him going down the escalator right there. Then we go to the same camp that was in the first Cap movie, the one where Cap actually trained to be Cap. We also see Tommy Lee Jones' character. We also see Howard Stark and Peggy Carter all on the wall. Also, is a deep cut reference right here. Notice the code they used to sneak into the secret office. The code is 8539. Online, people have said that this is a nod to Patriot issue #3, since that comic came out in August 5th, 1939. So 8539. Also, we get a hint to Stark's parents' death at the hands of the Winter Soldier in this movie. That's why it kind of comes full circle in Civil War, but it didn't really hit me when I first saw that movie. Also, teeny tiny little Easter egg. Check out what Black Widow's wearing here. Now zoom in right about here. You'll notice that she's wearing a necklace. What's on that necklace? Oh, it's a little arrow. And it's been confirmed that this is a fun Easter egg towards Hawkeye. And this is at a point when we all thought that they were gonna get together, and then Age of Ultron kind of changed all that. Not in a bad way, just in a confusing way. We then get the retro costume from Captain America 1, not the super old one with the cuffs and the wings on the side, but yeah, close enough. Also want to point out another awesome moment when Bucky kicks that dude into the engine. Oh my goodness, that is so violent. And now let's list off a couple of those insight targets that we see pop up real really, really fast. First up, it's Maria Hill. I didn't even realize that it panned out from the back of her head, just zoomed out and then zoomed up into the sky. Also, President Matthew Ellis, who Ellis was the president in Iron Man 3, which is a nod to Warren Ellis, a very popular comic book writer. But most importantly, Anthony Stark, aka Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, in Avengers Tower. There's an Easter egg within an Easter egg here. You'll actually notice in this scene a newly rebranded Avengers Tower. How cool is that? A big A on the side. Also, we see near the end of the film that Crossbones actually survives getting a whole building dropped on him. Then moving on to the post-credit scene, we hear mention of Captain America's colorful friends, which is a fun nod to the Avengers. Also, the final scene, Bucky in the Smithsonian looking at his own monument. This is the same look that he kind of has in Civil War as well, worth pointing out. Finally, before I leave you guys, let's hit up some pop culture and historical little Easter eggs and hidden references that I was able to find. Like, this is the first non-Paramount produced movie for Marvel. Also, Gary Sinise is the narrator in the Smithsonian exhibit for Cap.
Captain America and his howling commandos quickly earn their stripes.
Also, when the kid notices Captain America hiding in plain sight with a hat, in an interview, Chris Evans explained how much he loved this because it finally made sense to him. This trope of a kid identifying someone trying to hide in plain sight. It's because he's lower than everybody else. He's able to look up past the hat and actually see someone's face. Also, the line from Black Widow, where did Captain America learn how to steal a car? Even though he explains it's from the war, this is actually a fun nod from the Captain America movie from the 90s. We then get the line, shall we play a game? This is from Black Widow, and Captain America actually gets this reference. It's actually from the movie War Games. Also in this scene, we hear about Operation Paperclip, which is actually a real thing where America specifically took some German scientists for themselves to, help them advance our own technology or medicine or what have you. Then moving forward to when we're in Alexander Pierce's house where he's meeting with the Winter Soldier, notice when he opens the fridge, there's a jar of something of Paul Newman's, which is actually kind of a fun nod and a tribute to his friend Paul Newman when they actually starred in a bunch of movies together like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Then moving to Senator Stern doing this very awkward whisper to Sitwell, "Hail Hydra." This birthed the meme, and I thought that was worth mentioning. Then we meet the doctor who helped save Nick Fury's life. It's actually a fun Easter egg because this is Joe Russo, one half of the directing team for this movie and Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. And coming into the very end of this movie, we see on Nick Fury's grave, the path of the righteous man, Ezekiel 25:17, which of course is a very fun Easter egg to Pulp Fiction. If you didn't know, Samuel L. Jackson was in that movie. And finally, Stan Lee's cameo. He's the guard at the Smithsonian who is totally gonna lose his job because Captain America broke into a national museum and somehow you did not hear him. Yes, you're definitely gonna be fired. And that's it from me, guys. Let me know what your favorite Easter egg was in the comments down below or on Twitter at OnlyStupidAnswers. Yank out those dang vowels from stupid. Make sure you like this video, comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe, and make sure you check out all of my other MCU Rewatch breakdowns on this channel. Barely made it through that sentence. I'm Sam Basher, and I'll see you next time.